This is a cultural tour of Portugal and Brazil. Our first destination is in Lisbon, Portugal. The language for this region is Portuguese. The ethnicity for this region is the Portuguese people. The religion for this region is Christianity, Roman Catholic. The historical point of reference is here at Sejal George in Lisbon, Portugal. Archaeological evidence shows that there has been a human presence on the hill going back as far as the early indigenous Celtic tribes. This location is unique as it stands at the center of so many cultural changes that eventually led to the language of Portugal itself, Portuguese, becoming a distinct language of its own, and the country of Portugal being founded as a distinct, sovereign, functional region. The Portuguese language, though through Latin in origin, distinct from Spanish, Galician, French, and other Ciceromanic languages nearby. In short, this is because through rooted in the same quote-unquote dirty Latin or common Latin that was brought to all by Roman invasion. Portuguese is the least influenced by outside linguistic influences. The boundary around Portugal is not just a political one, but it is mostly defiantly a linguistic cultural boundary as well. What probably started out as a vernacular region became a functional and then ultimately a formal one. Our second destination is in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The language for this region is Brazilian Portuguese. The ethnicity for the region of the Brazilian society is made up of a confluence of people of several different origins from the original Native Americans with the influx of Portuguese colonizers, black African slaves, and recently European, Arab, and Japanese immigration. The religion for this region is Christianity, Roman Catholic. The historical point of reference is here at Christ the Redeemer statue, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Cristo Redentor in Portuguese is 98 feet tall, not including its 26-foot pedestal and its arms stretched 92 feet wide, and sits atop Cordova Mountain overlooking Rio, a testament to and built by the Catholic community of Rio. The statue is an icon that illustrates the extent of the infusion of the region that the Portuguese brought with them to the New World. Recent Brazilian census information puts the population at roughly 190 million people, with 64.6% identifying as Catholic. Almost all 190 million people speak Portuguese. Our third destination is again in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The language for this region is Brazilian Portuguese. The ethnicity for the region of the Brazilian society is made up of a confluence of people of several different origins, from the original Native Americans with the influx of Portuguese colonizers, black African slaves, and recently European, Arab, and Japanese immigration. The religion for this region is Christianity, Roman Catholic. The historical point of reference is here at Cidade de Jesus, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. In contrast, Cidade de Jesus, the City of God, is a slum neighborhood made famous by the film of the same name. These slums were built on the steep land and in a hospital brush outside of what was the main city of Rio. Notorious for drug and violent crimes, the slums are symbolic of the poverty in which the large portion of the Brazilian population lives. The slum, though, has become the heart of the Brazilian pop culture, producing rappers, musicians, actors, and the national music of Brazil, the samba. The most famous person to come from the slums, at least to us in the US, is arguably Sejal, who played the Chicken Man character in the movie Cidade de Jesus, and has gone on to a world renowned music career both acting and singing in the US film The Life Aquatic. The slums are the mixing pot from which the modern Brazilian Portuguese language comes from. Our final destination is back in Lisbon, Portugal. The language for this region is Portuguese. The ethnicity for the region is the Portuguese people. The religion for this region is Christianity, Roman Catholic. The historical point of reference is here at Christ the King, Lisbon, Portugal. Finished in 1954, the Christ the King statue is a Catholic monument and shrine overlooking the city of Lisbon, in the central part of Portugal. It is inspired by Christ the King the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Another example of a cultural movement illustrating the return of the Portuguese culture from Brazil in a modified form. Religious icons were brought to Brazil by the early colonists and the crusading Catholic Church, only to be returned home to Portugal after receiving a treatment from the culture of Brazil's many modern artists and architects, perhaps softened and a bit more lyrical. Though a religious statue, it embodies much more than as a unit of culture.